Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of DroneNation. This is the Hubsan Zino Mini Pro announcement launch party date here. Just last night, this is April 23rd here in the U.S. In the wee hours of the morning, Hubsan finally released their teaser video for their new Mini Pro, and wow, some of the specs of this thing kind of blew us away here. Marcus, did you get a chance to watch the video also?
I did, Ron, and you and I think are both in agreement. It's a video, and the specs, as you said, absolutely blow us away. What unfortunately is missing here is the fact that this is just an animation, and there's no announcement of availability, nor did we see any actual video footage from the drone, nor did we see an actual picture of the drone other than this animation. So,
and we do not have a price or release date at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, it's hard to get too excited. They put together a really impressive animation here, and we could talk about the specs, but the proof is in the pudding. And as you and I have, everybody's been very excited about the FIMI Mini, and you and I have already ordered it, etc. But recently we saw some videos with some issues with that one right off the bat.
Correct. And we just starting to pop up the videos in the last, say, 24 or 36 hours. And yeah, I mean, it's all over the place, but we're not here really to talk about the Mini. We will, the FIMI, we will get into a more of a comparison probably on Monday night's episode of DroneNation. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starring co-host Marcus Crawford and Ron Brown, and we always have good guests from the droning community. So we'll probably get more into details. We're going to keep this video kind of on the short side here because some people just want to see the information so they can kind of compare it all and whatever. So we're not going to make this into a lot of what Marcus and I think, what our opinions are. We're going to try to stick to the facts for once. On paper, this looks like, as Marcus said, on paper, or actually on paper, on video, this looks like a Mavic Mini 2 killer. But like Marcus just said, the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah. Let's roll
that video.
Roll that video. What do you think?
As they say. Okay, what we're going to do, folks, is I'll have the link down below so you can watch the full video uninterrupted, for your own viewing pleasure. But we're going to stop at every important bullet point here and kind of compare. I've wrote some stats down. Marcus has too. How it compares up to the DJI Mini 2 drone, and spoiler alert, it seems to top the Mini 2 in almost every category. And maybe I don't have the FIMI Mini stuff written down, but maybe Marcus I kind of can remember that a little bit of a specs in our head and throw that in there too. But we're mostly trying to compare it to the DJI Mini 2 because it's a known product. Marcus and I have both had hands on. We've tested that. The FIMI Mini, all we know is specs and a few early user test flights. And I don't want to lean too heavy on an unknown product. Does that make sense, Marcus?
Yes.
Okay. So with no further ado, folks, we will roll this video. Oops. Hold on. As always goes wrong in the world of, it's going to be, okay, here we go. Okay, our first bullet point.
Yeah, well, that's a big sensor. The DJI Mini has a 1/2.3, and this is a 1/1.3, which is a bigger image sensor. So
good to point that out because it would with the lower number, you would think it was small, but it's actually you might as well think it's almost a third bigger than the one on the Mini 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And we both know that a bigger sensor is better.
Right.
So that's a great spec. That's awesome.
Yeah. So okay. Next, do we know the sensor size of the FIMI Mini off the top of our head?
Let me hang on a second here.
Yeah, I hate to have you do all this research because again, trying to keep this show kind of consolidated. We could, Monday.
Yes, I do. I have it. It's even smaller. It's a 1/2.6.
Okay, so this tops all three minis
Right.
in sensor size. So that's good. Thank you for that research. Okay, let's keep it moving here, folks. Okay, here's advertising a 48 megapixels, and the Mini 2 advertises itself at 12 megapixels.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So let me see if I have that for the FEMI Mini.
While you're looking at, I'm going to fill here.
Yeah, this
so
12 megapixel on the FEMI as well.
I believe this is just a bit of advertising on the part of Hubsan here. You know how, like, on the first DJI Mavic Air 2, they advertised a 48 megapixel photo. I think they're doing the same thing here, even though this isn't quite the quad bear sensor. I think this is their top pixel thing, maybe for a photo image. I very much doubt that it has 48 megapixels at video at all times.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this thing it does some kind of a parlor trick where it produces a 48 megapixel image. Again, I'm just purely speculating here.
Yeah,
because even the new Mavic Air 2S doesn't advertise 48 megapixel video at any point.
Right.
With a 1-inch sensor. So
right.
Yeah, so don't put too much into this 48 megapixel. We got to know what the megapixel count is, say, on a video, not, this could just be for a, like when it does a lot of what we call it in-camera, stuff to create all these extra pixels. So, right. Okay, let's move on, since this one's obviously some kind of a advertising thing here. Okay, now here's an important one, Marcus. 2.4 mixed large pixel and an f1.85 super large aperture. Now, I really don't know what the mixed large pixel means. The only thing I do know is, the larger the pixels, the better. And how I mean it, some real small cameras advertise they have all these pixels, but they're these tiny pixels, where a bigger camera may only say it has it may only be 8 megapixels, 16 megapixels, but they're bigger pixels. So bigger pixels are better. This is really confusing. But
especially where they say mixed large pixels. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I've never heard that those terms used in any kind of advertisements for any other camera before. So that was kind of confusing.
Right. And
DJI doesn't even list anything like that to compare this to. So there's no even, you can't even compare it to anything on DJI's website. But let's get to the f1.85 super large aperture. By comparison, the Mini 2 has an f2.8. So this is a considerably larger aperture, and the larger the aperture, the more light it lets in. So that would, lead to this is going to be pretty good in low light.
Yeah, and I am not seeing that specification for the FEMI Mini. I'm looking on their store webpage, and they're just not listing it here, Ron. So I'm not sure what that is for the FEMI Mini, but that's a big aperture. That's right, and that's important because it'll let in a lot of light, right?
Yeah, like if you're a photographer, you like a lens, like say you like a prime lens, like say you got a 20 millimeter 1.8 prime lens. That's a good lens. That means you don't need to use a lot of flash, or you don't need to bump the ISO way up or whatever. That leaves a lot of light in. So that'll kind of take away from the fact that it doesn't have the bigger sensor that the actual aperture is leaving more light in. So I mean, this sounds like a really concrete, great feature. The bigger sensor combined with the super large aperture, we may have a good low light drone even without, that 1-inch sensor.
Right.
Like I know,
light in.
I think I'm just pulling specs out of my head here, but I think even like something like the DJI Mavic 2 Pro is only like a 2.2 aperture.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up too, Ron.
Yeah,
But,
folks, I may be wrong on this, but I know what I'm not wrong on. This is a larger aperture than either the Mavic 2 Pro or the Evo 2 Pro. So
right.
again, this is just a spec here. But and did you notice on the graphic here it says 48 megapixel beside the 1.1/1/3 inch icon there on the camera?
Yeah, right there on the lens
So
cover.
they're even throwing 48 megapixel on the on the glass there. So they're really pushing this 48. So again, I just what I said about that 48 megapixel thing is just pure speculation. I don't know anything beyond them saying 48 megapixel.
Right.
So, but so this, I mean, so far, that's pretty impressive. Okay, now here we got 6x zoom, and in comparison, Marcus, my notes here say the Mini 2 at 4K it does 2x zoom, at 2.7 it does 3x zoom, and at 1080p it does 4x zoom.
Yeah, and then to put that in comparison with the Air 2S at 4K, it does 5.3 or 5.4 stops of zoom, something like that. So 6x zoom is something, but what they're not telling us here is that in full resolution or in their 4K resolution, or is it at 1080p? We don't know that.
Yeah, now we don't know, and that's a good point, Marcus. I'm always leery of advertising, so I'm like you. I'm guessing the 6x zoom is at the 1080p, but if we go by the same scale that DJI has, that means 2.7 will be 5 and 4K will be 4. So that's still good.
Listen, the other caution that I want to throw out here is, listen, you and I both have seen the toy drones that advertise a digital 50 times zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and by the time you get into that 50 times, it's just a blur. You can't really see anything. So there again,
in other words, your flip phone from 2005 quality zoom,
and that's what we don't know here. So it may be great. So we're not throwing cold water on it, but we also want to use a little caution and manage expectations.
Folks, we're not saying any of this stuff's going to work to perfection or be, we're just reading the specs here, and the specs are impressive.
Yes, they are. So,
okay. So again, and Marcus and I both love the zoom capability of the new Air 2S. So we would be, if this thing could do 6x zoom in 4K, I mean, and we don't know how many stops that'll be, lossless if any of the stops, but anyhow, it's encouraging, even
it's
if it only works.
Specification.
Right. Okay, now here's advertising HDR mode, and we know the Mini 2 does not have HDR mode, but the Fimi Mini, I believe, does have HDR mode.
They say that it does, and what you and I both know is without 10-bit color, our friend Ethan Mitchell taught us this, that without 10-bit color, it's not true HDR. But the thing is, I don't know about you, Ron. I don't care. What I care is what the image looks like when I'm all done, and whether it's an emulation or really true HDR. Hey, what I'm interested in is what that image looks like. And as we saw, we've seen with some other drones, the Air 2, it looked pretty good, and like the Skydio 2, the HDR looks really good. So if Hubsan can pull off something like that keeps those brights in, get it where you got good detail and put some light on the darker areas, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, like you said, HDR on these affordable cameras is just them doing their own color profiling of high contrast areas. But to be fair, though, to Ethan, the true HDR would not appear in this Air on a budget camera. It would only appear on higher end devices. I'm going to guess the Air 2S is the cheapest device that offers the HLG format to actually do true HDR. So we're true HDR is in a whole different price category.
Different category.
Yeah, than we're at now. That would be like expecting, again, Corvette performance in a Chevy entry level car. It's just you can't even put them together. This is but like you said, important thing. This is not true HDR, but true HDR is not expected at this price point. So
and like you said, those kind of slogans or names are getting thrown around a lot now, and HDR is getting thrown around a lot, not just in drones, but in TVs and everything else. Yeah. And in this case, Ron, wouldn't we call this computational videography then?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. But your point is the best. I don't care if it's true HDR. If it makes my high contrast videos look better or whatever, that's all I care about.
Right.
So this is this could be a good addition. It can't hurt, because if it doesn't look good, you just don't use it. So right. it can't hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's our top end spec here, 4K 30. And hold on, folks. I know everybody gets upset here. Everybody wants 4K 60, even people that don't even know what 4K 60 is. But the Mavic Mini 2, it tops out at 4K 30. Now it does do 2.7 60 frames per second, 1080 60 frames per second. And I do not know about the little Phoebe Mini. I know it tops out at 4K 30, but I don't know if it does 60 in the lower frame rates. Or
I don't have that available either, Ron.
Yeah. So, but this 4K 30 is to be expected at this price point. Would you agree, Marcus?
Yeah. And the only reason, the main reason that you would want a higher frame rate is if you wanted to slow down the footage for something and get some slow motion. Other than that, 4K 30 is going to look really good. So I'm thrilled with that.
And most people at the budget level, the entry level drones aren't usually they're just getting into it. They usually don't have a whole bunch of ND filters. They don't understand all the frame rates, because again, it's an entry level drone. They're just trying to get in. So I don't think that the whole shutter speed arguments is important at this entry level. Just my 2 cents. Oh, right. Okay. It offers the H.265 Kodak as opposed to the 264 Kodak. The 265 is a more compact Kodak, but it also puts more, it makes your computer work harder on the other end when you're trying to edit. So it's a good thing, when you're doing the recordings, because it's nice small compact file, but it's bad on the other end when you put it in the computer, especially if you have a lower power computer.
If you have an older computer, you're going to struggle with this, but
right.
but I see it as a great thing. That H.265 Kodak, if I understand it correctly, Ron, it includes more information, and so
it does.
Particularly, I know, Ron, I know you do a lot of color grading and so forth. That really is important. Now, the other spec is the one that is going to blow everybody's mind, right?
Right, the 200 megabits. Let me just back up just for a second. The DJI Mini 2, as far as I can read in the specs, only does H.264, and I wasn't aware of that until I looked at the spec sheet this morning. Yeah,
you know what? I don't know that either, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the specs, and unless I was reading them wrong, and I was looking on DJI's official website, they only offer 264.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as well, Ron, and it just says 264.
So this again, it seems like Hubsan's determined to top DJI at almost every turn here.
Yeah,
and you mentioned the 200 bit rate. The Mini 2 only offers 100 megabit bit rate, but this 200 bit rate, again, I'm not trying to knock their stats, but even the new Air 2S only tops out at 150 megabits.
So, Ron, if this bit rate would be comparable with a mirrorless camera or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a I don't know, almost 5-year-old Olympus EM1. I mean, and it does like about 250, 260 megabytes. But I mean, it's common for cameras to have,
a higher bit rate.
Yeah. So, but so yeah, this is in the drone world, or even in the small camera, in the drone world, in the action camera, in the 360 camera, this spec is almost, higher than anything we've seen in a small size camera before.
And Ron, we should talk a little bit about why that's important. That bit rate makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like if for instance, we a lot of times we see. I'm going to relate to memory cards. If you have a memory card, it's like too slow. For your drone or your camera or whatever, you won't get all the data recorded. The same thing here. Say you have this great 4K 30, frames per second, and you're recording all this tremendous video, but I'm going to call it the chip inside the camera can't record in a fast enough bit rate to get all. It's going to miss bits or whatever, so your video won't look that good because it's missing bits that the camera saw at the time when they were filming it. So does that make any sense, Marcus?
Yeah, it does. And that's why this is important. That's why a higher bit rate is always better. And I remember I'm going to go back to the original Zino, Ron, and it had, I remember kind of being blown away at the time when it had like a 45 megabit bit rate, which for that kind of a drone was just amazing at the time. And so now they're saying 4 times that. If that's the case, this video should look really good.
And and basically, to put it in kind of layman's terms here, whatever the camera can see, the computer hardware on it should be able to record it.
Right.
So again, this spec kind of blows. I mean, it even blows DJI's high-end drones away at this point. So again, they again, this is almost incredible here. So. Okay, here's our SyncLeads 3.0, which is their answer to OcuSync, technology from DJI. And they're advertising 1080p 30 frames a second back to your device, like whatever you're viewing it on, your phone, your tablet. And that the Mini 2 does 720p 30 frames per second. So again, it's a step up from the Mini 2 specs.
Yeah, that's going to look really good. Yeah,
I believe this is the specs of for instance, I believe this is the specs of the Air 2S.
Yeah, the Air 2, I'm pretty sure is 1080p. So yeah, I mean, that's going to look, you're going to be able, so the reason that this is important to you with a drone, and I've run into this on cheaper drones all the time. If you cannot see really well what your drone is doing and what it's looking at, it's really hard to get that shot. If you're guessing where that camera is placed and so forth, in fact, it's impossible to get that shot. So that's why it's really good to have a clear transmission back to your drone. It just really, really helps you get the shot. And then also, hopefully, included in this is, because it's a stronger signal, you're going to see less lag too. So you're going to see real time what your drone is doing.
And on that note, and the lag's more important at distance than, usually most of these drones, if you're close by, you don't see the lag. But once you get out a certain way, then the lag kicks in where this hopefully, you can go almost to full range with no lag. And speaking of range, okay, it says it offers 10 kilometers of range, and the Mini 2 is offering the same 10 kilometers of range.
Yeah, which with a little drone like this, I've said it a million times, who's going to fly a little drone like this 10 kilometers? I mean, certainly not me. That 20 megabit bandwidth is good because that's just what we were talking about earlier. That's going to be a strong signal back to your controller and good FPV. So yeah.
What does the Phoebe Mini offers range? I'm thinking it says 8K on the Phoebe.
Yeah, it's 8 on the Phoebe Mini.
Right. So all these drones, if they work to their advertised range, they're all plenty of range for the
10. To me, that's just it's just not that important to me now. Signal penetration is more important if you're behind a tree or behind a building or something.
Look at the graphic. That's exactly what it's showing, that range going through that building.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we want. We want, like Mark said, we want, better. The range of our curved drones is fine, but we need better signal penetration around not only objects but heavily saturated Wi-Fi areas.
Agreed.
And Marcus's famous a cell tower at the little school.
Yeah.
Inside joke. Sorry, folks. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's move on here. Oh boy, Marcus, here we go.
40 minutes.
A max flight time of 40 minutes. Now the Mini 2 advertises 31 minutes, and I'm not sure what the Phoebe Mini advertises.
Oh gosh, let me see if I can find that real quick, Ron. I am sure I have that at my fingertips.
So Marcus is looking up. This equals the Evo 2 Pro flight time, and the Evo 2 Pro battery is probably 249 grams.
Yeah. I am not seeing. 30 minutes. It says here.
30 minutes. So this tops DJI by 9 minutes and Phoebe by 10 minutes. So Marcus.
Oh, I should hold. I need to stop you for the Pro battery. If you get the Pro battery, they're saying 31 minutes in the Phoebe.
Oh, okay, yeah. So how in a 249 gram drone how do they get a 10-minute increase? I mean, I know how the Evo 2 got 10-minute increase because they put the world's biggest battery in their drone, but how's Hubsan going to do it?
Listen, they're going to have some secret sauce that DJI couldn't find, and this is probably one of the specs that I'm the most skeptical of. And Hubsan has always exaggerated their flight times, so just take it for what it's worth, folks. 40 minutes would be a lot of fun if it gets 40 minutes.
We say the exaggeration. So if this thing it said 40, but it actually got 30 in the air, that would be
tremendous.
Because the Mini 2 doesn't get 30 minutes in the air unless you're just hovering or something.
Yeah, I think you're going to be more like 25 minutes would be my guess.
Which is still more than enough for most of us.
Yeah, they advertise for the Hubsan Zino Pro Plus with that big battery that they put in it. They advertised, I think, 43 minutes. And the last time I flew it, I think I got like 26 minutes, something like that. So but all we can do is read what the thing says here. Okay, yeah. So anyhow, that's an impressive number. Whether they get to it or not will be tested. Yeah.
Okay, 249 grams. I mean, we know the Mini 2 is actually lighter than 249 grams, and we know the Phoebe Mini is more than 249 grams with the battery it ships with. The Pro battery won't be out until maybe June. Is that correct, Marcus?
Yeah, we don't really know, but yeah. We know it's not available right now.
Yeah.
But this is a big achievement, especially with we're going to talk a little bit about all the sensors and stuff that it has later, but if it really has all those features, that's a heck of an achievement, because what we do know is one of the things that DJI said about the Mini 2, that light that's on the front of the Mini 2, they had originally hoped to put an obstacle avoidance sensor there, but they could not meet the weight with that. And, evidently Hubsan has found some secret sauce here that they're able to do that, which it's a tremendous achievement.
Well, what's no further ado. Here's what Marcus is talking about. It advertises front, back, and down 3D space perception, vision, obstacle avoidance.
And you can see the sensors on the front, and I've seen the picture. I think later or earlier they showed a picture of the bottom where you can see the sensors. I don't remember on the back, but hey, this is nothing but good news to have. In fact, I think this is the first Hubsan drone that I know of with obstacle avoidance. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And the first mini drone to have and then series of minis to have it, the Mavic
Well, other than downward,
the Mini Mini do not have. They have downward facing sensors that help land, but no avoidance.
Right.
So this actually, like kind of like the Air 2 does, this kind of maps out the terrain.
I've got high hopes. If it can do all this, that is going to be an amazing achievement. And I know I'm probably.
What do they say, Marcus? Take my money if it does all this.
Oh, of course. And I know I'm sounding a little bit skeptical, and I think with good reason. I think we should be skeptical. Again, I want to stress that all we're seeing here is an animation. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, nothing more to say here except if this happens, this is wonderful.
Be great.
I mean, we don't have the side sensors and whatever, but of course, we're talking this price range here. We're not going to get 360-degree. We don't know the price of this, but at the it's still at this whatever the price point is, it's going to be beyond the point of of having 360 obstacle avoidance.
Yes.
All right, here we go. ATVT 3.0 AI tracking, and it shows the deer being tracked with a little box. We know the Mini 2 does not have that type of tracking in it.
Let me say this, Ron. Hubsan's tracking has always been really good. Even going back to the original Zino, it could do both GPS tracking, where it's tracking the controller, and visual tracking, and it always did a great job at it. So I don't doubt that this will be something that'll be really cool on this drone. And there, Ron, we're seeing those rear sensors. I thought we had seen them.
Oh, yeah. They make them a blue icon in the back.
Yeah.
And let me just throw in, I believe the Phoebe Mini also has this type of tracking in it.
It does. Here's, we've seen some videos already that it's a little bit problematic. And now you and I haven't seen the drone yet, so we don't want to say anything definitively. I can tell you the experience I've had with previous FEMI drones, their tracking is not as robust as what I've seen from Hubsan or DJI. Now, anyway, but the thing is,
the only defense I can make for the video from the guy from England is he was out in bright sunlight, and when he was walking into the sun, it wasn't working well. But he walked away from the sun.
Ron, I know exactly.
It did seem to work okay. So I think it was a and I'm not getting hook for this, but it seemed like an exposure problem.
Here's what happened, Ron. That I've got some experience with that FEMI. He was in trace mode, and when you have that FEMI in trace mode, you can't walk underneath it like he did. Trace mode is meant to follow you directly behind you. Had he walked the other way, the drone would have followed him perfectly. As soon as he walked underneath the drone, it lost him, and that's part of their system. That's how their system works. So that's what happened on that.
Yeah, and no derogatory. The gentleman from England did a nice job.
He did a great job. Yeah.
He seemed to be a little inexperienced. It was his first time out, and he was a little bit inexperienced with the product. So
right.
Take that all into account.
What he did at all, but as soon as I saw him do it, I knew exactly what happened from my experience with FEMI drones.
But no, this we're skeptical of some specs, but the fact that this will have good tracking, we're not skeptical, because the previous Hubsan drones all did this well. So there's no reason it's not going to work well on this one.
Yeah, and maybe even better, like they said, they're saying
it's 3.0 now.
So, yeah.
All right, here we go.
Forge ahead.
Yeah, challenge the limit, forge ahead. So I mean, I mean, again, like you said, this was just animated, but I mean, this was definitely an impressive video, Marcus.
There's no question about it. If they can give us all of these specs and heck, you and I talked about how the FEMI needed to be a very price dependent drone. If they can sell this with all of these specs for $450, I'm all in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they could sell for the same price as the Mini 2, And if they had these specs, all actually work. If they all actually work correctly after a couple rounds of firmware updates, yeah, they've got themselves a viable a competitor, because you get a lot of the features that you have to go through the Air 2 to find in the 249 gram drone from Hubsan.
It'd be a home run, and we should also touch really quickly, Ron, on why that 249 grams is important. I think probably most of our viewers already know, but it's worth talking about. It is important in the U.S. If you're a hobby drone pilot, you don't have to register it then. But it's more important, I know, in the U.K., for instance. There's a lot of things they can do with a sub 249 gram or 250 gram drone that they cannot do with other heavier drones. And then in Canada, it's a big deal too. They really a 249 gram or 250 gram sub drone. There really are their rules are basically don't do anything stupid. So you can fly pretty much wherever you want, other than closed airspace, of course.
Right.
And you don't need any kind of a license or anything to do it. So having these kind of specs on a drone like that, it truly is a big deal, and it'll be a game changer. And if they can pull this off, they'll sell a ton of them.
Right. I mean, the Mini 2 is one of the greatest drones around for the price, the performance. But again, it is limited in its feature set. I mean, what it does well, it's it hits a home run in most of the categories. But it does have a limited feature set, and this definitely opens things up.
A lot of those things that people have been asking for with this drone has them. Now, my concern is that we don't have a release date here. So
I'm gonna stop you there and ask you: would you? I mean, this is pure speculation. I know, but would you take a guess at a release date and a price?
I just listen. Knowing Hubsan,
I mean, just pure speculation. You don't know anything. This is just guesswork.
Yeah. Well, well, I can speculate on price because I know the way Hubsan tends to price their products a little bit more expensive than FEMI. So I'm guessing that this drone is going to be priced at least at $400 and probably more like $450. As to release date, boy, who knows, Ron? I mean, I'd hesitate to even guess. If we see it by this fall, maybe that would be awesome. The fact that they don't say, you can go to Hubsan's website right now and there's nothing about this drone. The only thing we have so far is this CGI animation video. So does the drone even exist at this point? We don't even know. So yeah, that's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm again, Hubsan, I fear that the drone, it'll be over 400, and I'm fear that it'll be close to 500 in price. And I'm saying not some super release price if you're the first 1,000. Where I mean the real price once all the what that opening round of sales is over.
Let me ask you, Ron. So is this drone worth $500 to you?
If it again, if these features are real and most of them work, I don't know, most of them work, to 95% of, what they should work. I guess I would choose this over the Mini 2. Now, the key thing that usually ruins these drones is a lot of this stuff will work right, especially after a couple of rounds of update, but and the camera specs are great, but forget the specs. How about if you just shoot the video beside the Mini 2? Forget about the numbers. Just look at the video. How will it compare? How will the lens be in this thing? Will there be a lens flare issue? Like I already saw in the FEMI Mini, I didn't see a lens flare, but I saw when I was pointing the sun, it definitely had an overexposure issue.
Well, the lens fog is
Even later on in the video when the fog went away, I mean, he still he turned to the sun.
Yeah,
I saw a big overexposure issue.
you're making a great point, Ron. And let me throw one other thing in there that I think is important and people often forget. That, when I first got my Mini 2, my first flight, I had an issue with it. It kind of went out of control over the Snake River Canyon, and I was able to get a hold of DJI, sent it back to them. They sent me back a replacement within, it was just maybe a week. You're not going to get that kind of, if the past is our guide, and it's not saying they couldn't change, but of Hubsan's customer service is really, for all intents and purposes, is non-existent. They don't really stand behind their product. If you bought this and you had a problem with it, they're going to tell you to ship it back to China or something that's going to cost you more than you paid for the drone practically. So they really don't have any customer service like you can get with DJI. So that is a factor, and that is something that I think is really important for them to overcome.
That's is a good point, an ongoing point. And, just to kind of round up the camera, a lot of these drones like this, the Fimi Hubsans, they kind of tend to play better with people who are more concerned about how the drone flies and performs rather than the video catchers. As long as it takes video for most people, they're happy, as long as the drone flies well. And Hubsan and Fimi, after firmware updates, they're pretty good at getting the drones to fly well. But, again, Fimi had the ongoing horizon tilt issue with their X8 series of drones. And, of course, the Zino 2 had its lens flare issue. The Zino 1, didn't really have any consistent issue that stayed the whole time. They pretty much got everything, ironed out. Again, like the budget drones, it had problems when it was facing sun and high exposure. It didn't necessarily have a terrible lens flare, just had problems handling all that exposure.
But at that price point, that's what you didn't expect, because it was a price dependent product. And this, if it's going to be priced with the Mini 2, you're going to expect that camera to be as good or better than the Mini 2, right?
Especially with these specs.
Yeah, right. And Ron, you and I are always on the same page on this. A drone can do whatever, it can have whatever features, it can fly great and all that. The reason that you buy a GPS camera drone is to get good, stable, nice looking video and photographs. And if that part of the equation is not happening, the rest of it is just worthless as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Yeah. A couple of years ago, it was a big deal to have a drone fly well, perform well, GPS lock and all that stuff. But nowadays it's commonplace. Just having a drone that flies well isn't enough anymore. This isn't 2017, 2018 anymore. This is almost halfway through 2021. That it flies well should be taken for granted nowadays.
And the expectation is you're going to get good quality video off of the product, and
right.
That is a must. So that remains to be seen. So I guess we could distill this down to, Ron, our two biggest concerns, at least mine are, I won't speak for you, but are that camera quality and the customer service aspect of it. As far as the features that the drone offers, however those work out will be great. And if they can even get 75% of it. And what I will say is, Hubsan, typically their features work really good. Their automated features and stuff, my experience is they work well. So there's no reason for us not to expect that.
Yeah.
If I'm a skeptic on this drone, Ron, it is some of those the camera specifications and so forth, and flight time, etc. Other than that,
how much the exaggeration level is.
Right.
Because what they're not just picking on Hubsan. Every drone maker exaggerates their flight time. It's a matter of how much they're exaggerating,
including DJI. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is when they advertise flight time, they're flying that battery down to 0. I don't know about you, Ron, but there is not very often that I don't land at 20%. And if I get below 20%, I'm starting to get nervous. Plus, it's not good for the battery. You know.
Right, exactly. All good points. And I just want to make one point though about the customer service. That kind of goes for every drone maker out there, with the exception of Hubsan and Altel. So
of DJI and Altel.
Yeah, DJI and Altel, the only two companies that you could expect any type of customer service. So Hubsan just kind of goes in with the rest of them on that respect. So
Fimi is a half a step above Hubsan in that regard, but yeah.
Even if they would take care of you, it would not be easy.
It's not easy. They don't make it easy. Yeah, exactly.
So, I kind of agree with almost just everything Mark has said. If this, and the advice for who this drone was for, anybody that needs a 249 gram drone, but they want a little bit more feature set than DJI, I guess that's what this drone is for. Now, the problem is, Marcus made a good point. This is just a computer generated thing here. I would not advise, if you want to fly this summer and you want an under 249 gram drone, I would not advise to, just wait, because this thing may not be here this summer. So I would advise to go out and get the Mini 2, or take a chance on the Phoebe Mini, and hopefully get the, actually, if you need a 249 gram drone, don't buy the Phoebe Mini now. Wait another month until that battery is available.
Exactly right.
If you need a 249 gram drone tomorrow or today, go get the Mini 2 at Best Buy, or order it Amazon, get it in 2 days. Now, if you need a 249 gram drone, say by Memorial Day, maybe wait and see if the Phoebe Mini is available with the professional battery by then.
Exactly right. Really, at this point, your only choice is the DJI product. Until Fimi comes out with their new battery, and who knows when that's going to be, and then who knows when we'll see this. But
Hubs is going to make us look bad, and it'll be on the website tomorrow with a order now button.
I hope so. I sincerely.
We're challenging Hubsan.
Yeah.
Hey, just a quick aside. This has nothing to do with the Hubsan drone, but back to the video we saw of the English guy. I hate to keep calling him the English guy. He even said where he's from, and I forgot. But how about when he hit the return at home button, didn't even really pay attention, and it landed right in the inner circle of the pad.
It smacked that precision landing perfectly, didn't it? Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So it wasn't all negatives in the video, right?
That's right, and it had a good flat horizon.
Yes, a very good, DJI like horizon. So this video is going on longer than we thought, and Marcus has an appointment to get to. So I'm going to wrap things up. Marcus, you have any final thoughts, or?
Yeah, get out and fly drones, have fun. Listen. I got high hopes for this product, so let's hope that we see it soon, and let's hope that it's just as Hubsan advertises it here. Right.
Good. And if you want to talk more about this new drone, see us this Monday night. I don't know what the date is, but the last Monday in April, I guess, or whatever. Next Monday night. We're on every Monday night, so it doesn't matter.
The
26th, 9 p.m. Central Time. Marcus and I will be there on the air. We'll talk as much about the Hubsan Zino Mini Pro as you want that night, and the Phoebe Mini, and the Mavic Mini, and the new Air 2S. We're going to have it all Monday night. So we'll see you then.
Bye now.